Tuesday, January 21st, 1975, and now Lowell Thomas.
From Washington, from Rome, and from Baghdad comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. At President Ford's first news conference of the year, main topic, energy. In his opening, he said he plans to sign a presidential proclamation later in the week and thereby set in motion the most important, far-reaching energy conservation program in our nation's history, one that will prove the first step toward regaining our energy freedom. The president also pledging to work with the Congress to ensure speedy enactment of his new energy program. In response to a later question, though, he said he hopes Congress won't make too many changes, adding that he would veto any attempt by Congress to impose mandatory gasoline rationing. There's no easy decision. I never promised one, said the president. Then adding, but I'm convinced the months ahead will prove that we are right. In the same vein, the president again asserted the U.S. right to use force, if necessary, to avoid strangulation for lack of oil. A country has the right, said he, to protect itself against death. President Ford, at his news conference today, was also asked, when you were minority leader of the House, would you not have been horrified by a president predicting a $30 billion deficit and then proposing a big tax cut? President Ford replying, I am horrified as president, then adding, it is the right medicine for our current illness. The U.S. Labor Department today issued its year-end report on the U.S. Consumer Price Index, the rate of climb in the cost of living showing a slight drop in December. Total increase for the year coming to more than 12%, or the third biggest jump in modern U.S. history. Small car specialist American Motors today joined Detroit's Big Three, offering cash rebates to new car buyers, this following a drop of more than 50% in early January sales. FBI Director Clarence Kelly today issued an unprecedented explanation of FBI investigative procedures. He said the Bureau often receives or collects information pertaining to the loyalty, reputation, or moral character of members of Congress. Kelly insisting that the information in question is treated exactly the same as information compiled on private citizens and that it has never been used to intimidate congressmen or influence their judgment or actions. I wonder if you would call this exciting news from sunny Italy. At spring and summer fashion showings in Rome, another journey today into nostalgia. Top designer Tito Rossi presenting so-called mini harem trousers. Material all frilly, feminine, perhaps a bit transparent. Mini harem trousers, how about it? And now, this is Lowell Thomas for CBS News saying so long until tomorrow.
Wednesday, January 22nd, 1975, and now Lowell Thomas.
It's 7 o'clock. From Bangkok, from Paris, from St. Paul, Minnesota, comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. And first, a salute to CBS radio station WKNY, Kingston, New York, celebrating its 35th anniversary on the air. Rebellious House Democrats today completed the job that they began last week, ousting, replacing Wright Patman of Texas, Dean of the House, as chairman of the Key Banking Committee. The job now goes to Henry Roos of Wisconsin, age 62, nearly 20 years younger than the man he succeeds. Patman becoming third veteran House Committee chairman to be elbowed aside. The Soviet Union today filed an official protest against a weekend shooting attack directed at the Soviet mission in New York. The Kremlin noting this was the second act of terrorism against the Russian facility, apparently in protest against Soviet policy toward Jews. The Kremlin adding that violations such as these can only do great harm to Soviet-American relations. The death toll in the wig factory fire in suburban Manila now set at 45. The worst blaze in the Philippines since World War II, when Manila was all but leveled during the last days of the Japanese occupation. And the Supreme Court rules 5-4 that a student may not be suspended from a public school without prior hearing. Justice Byron White noting that a suspension is a serious event in the life of a child and therefore calls for at least minimum due process. And now this message. In the Soviet paper Literarnaya Gazeta, an article criticizing state-operated foreign language institutes, noting that many students can hardly speak a word of the language they supposedly have studied for years. But an explanation in a letter to the editor from a Soviet prof. Philologist Alexei Pompiansky, saying Soviet students are purposely taught merely to read and write foreign languages, not speak them. Reason, said he, Russians are virtually barred from traveling abroad or even having contact with foreigners. So why waste their time, says Professor Pompiansky. As I say, for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.
WTOP Radio News time is now 6 minutes past 7. It's 35 degrees.
Monday, January 27th, 1975. And now, Lowell Thomas.
It's 7 o'clock. From Wall Street, from Port Moresby, New Guinea, and from Nome, Alaska, comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. 50 years ago today, remember, the world was thrilled by that now legendary Nenana to Nome diphtheria serum run. A relay of dog teams and their drivers making the run, a desperate one. And the one who covered the most of the distance, Leonard Seppala, with his dog team of Siberians. The temperatures way, way down below zero. A feat never equaled before or since. And today up at Nome, they were reenacting the serum run. Ah, yes, and starting today, Nome's KICY joins the CBS Radio network. Tonight, carrying our broadcast for the first time. So here's to KICY, up there on Bering Sea, next door to Siberia. And here's to Seppala and all the others who went through that winter hell to carry the serum to Nome 50 years ago today. Down here on Wall Street, the stock market was jumping today, with industrial soaring more than 26 points, an all-time record volume with more than 32 million shares changing hands. Reason? Oh, maybe the drop in interest rates. Also the IBM ruling, perhaps. The new chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee today proposed a quickie tax rebate for low-income Americans. Also a speedy reduction in withholding rates for low and moderate income taxpayers, with hopefully the legislation needed for this by mid-February. And at the White House, topic A, energy again. We hear the president's program could cost the average American family about $345 a year, 95 more than the first estimate. Also, the president opposes gas rationing because he believes it could lead to a black market in gas. All Alaska is in mourning today, and the same is true wherever there are mountain climbers. For the greatest glacier pilot of all time passed away in a hospital in Anchorage, Alaska. Don Sheldon, the perfect airman. He had spent about half of his 53 years flying hazardous missions into the mountains and into the back bush country of Alaska. His biography, Wager the Wind, was published just recently by Rand McNally. Don Sheldon's headquarters was at Talkeetna, Alaska, at the foot of Mount McKinley. Mount McKinley was almost his personal mountain. Few will mourn his passing more than my son, who in his own plane sometimes flew missions with Sheldon. And he tells me there already is a movement afoot to change the name of the highest mountain in North America from McKinley, honoring a president who never even saw it, to Mount Sheldon. I hope they do. And now for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.